Hello everyone, I have one final build guide for you. So, let's get into it. This is going to be the non-Archon Legacy of Dreams Meteor Wizard build with, Star Pact. So let me try 135. I know this is actually a little bit lower than what I showed you with the Archon version, but, this is, very frustrating and annoying to play. And, I did jump the gun. This is a build that you should expect to, later on and not early like I did, right? My Paragon is low for it. My survivability is not enough. So, the extremely important thing that you should always keep an eye on is to not lose your Orb of Infinite Depth stacks, right? Which is denoted by that 4 under my Explosive Blast over there. So you should make certain that you never lose those stacks. So why is it a problem? Because we are using the Star Pact rune for the Meteor. That means we will be spending all of our arcane power, very literally, on the Meteor. And that, creates a problem of actual not having enough arcane power for the... Okay, so we lost it. Yeah. Very horrible design, 6-second duration. So you have to put it up immediately by doing Black Hole and... Yeah, casting it again, because your survivability goes down by orders of magnitude when you don't have the stacks, so it's very important. So the reason I said that I jumped the gun and spec early is, as I said, my survivability is not enough. So with this build you focus a lot on damage and not really much on survivability, which makes your HP way too low, right? And because we are relying on our barrier to keep us alive, and all of the barrier gain in Diablo 3 is based on your life is just not enough. So what you do is that you invest points from your Paragon points into Vitality. If you have never done that before, yeah, that will be the first time. So with everything fully stacked, you will have in the neighborhood of 3 billion toughness, which means we don't have everything. Yeah, fully stacked up, we have 3 billion toughness. And normally in time we have something like 60 million, right? Huge difference. Okay. So the way that you can tell that you are actually a little bit over in your head is that, you are losing your skirts necklace stacks, right? You should not be losing them. You should not be getting broken, at least very frequently. For me it is. So that Rare has kept his distance, being the nice guy that he is. Okay. And I lost my stacks. See, that was a mistake. But the cooldown is so long because we don't really focus cooldown reduction in this build, and the cost is such a problem that it happens, right? Because the duration is only 6 seconds and it works only, this is not as simple as putting up hydras or anything, right? This is pretty challenging because it's also only short range. Okay. So as you can see, when it works, it's nice, right? But once the deaths start, you will be dying by the dozens, sadly. Because you will have to refresh your armor, you will have to refresh your magic weapon. On top of that, you would have to put up your explosive blast stacks, which will take some time, and in the meanwhile you can get killed again. But yeah, the most important, so if you have a decent enough build, right, the only thing that you actually should keep an eye on is your explosive blast stacks. As long as you don't lose them, it should be fine. This is, by the way, one of the better runs I had. It's going pretty smooth so far. Keep in mind we have audacity, so we do not want to be far away from our targets, but close by. 13%, 30% increased damage against targets that are, less than 15 yards away. Yeah, yards. And in case you are not familiar with imperial system, you can take the yards to be approximately equal to meters. A yard is a little above 90 centimeters. Okay, so this is the most peace of mind pylon ever for this build, right? You get the shield, and those stacks, those explosive blast stacks, give us 10% damage up as well per stack. So you still have to keep them up, but obviously it's not as lethal, right? Let's kill this rare. He did survive for a little bit too long. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, we actually have a rare. So that means we can actually finish the rift in here. Nice. Yeah. So, if the Orb of Infinite Depth had a bit longer duration, like maybe 10 seconds, this would have been much more enjoyable, but it's pretty annoying as it is. Yeah. Okay. That was a rare. How on earth we don't have... Okay. We definitely should have him spawned. Okay, so I think we will be able to... See, it's a problem to cast the thing, right? So now the only thing I focus on is keeping my explosive blast stacks alive. And I missed them. Because I didn't have... So I tried using the skill. However, I couldn't because the arcane power was all used up. Okay, we stacked up the Bane of the Stricken pretty well. Okay, it was enough. So that was 7 minutes for 135. Yeah. Whatever. Let's do this, I guess, for the speed build, which I'm not very sure I would be going more for, but okay. So let's get into the detail of the build. Yeah. Funny thing, right? Okay. So 900 HP. So you want about 1,000,000 actually. So as I said, you want like 150. So you want about 1,500 paragon. That will only give you enough HP to start with, right? Most of the time. And then you would be getting your damage, right? So for example, 2,500 paragon would be nice. So let's see how the build operates. So a lot of the gear is really similar. When I say similar, I mean actually shared, right? The exact same pieces, right? A lot of the pieces. So the gloves are the stone gauntlets, right? For a lot of survivability. That's how we have 54 million in town and 3.2 billion in fights, right? That's how it goes. Because, we have the stone gauntlets, we have the Orb of Infinite Depth, we have few other stuff proccing from Hollow of Carini, etc. And we go up to 3.2 billion in survivability. And you kind of want about 3.5 billion or so. That's enough for 150 ish, right? So the important thing is your shields should not be getting broken. So the problem with this build, it's also extremely arcane power hungry, and we have to, divide our resources into getting arcane power and barrier, right? So you just don't have the luxury of having galvanizing ward, dominance as passives, and on top of that you don't really get the you don't really get to use the deflection rune for the magic weapon. We need the conduit that gives us arcane power. So let's get into it. So we have Swami is unimportant, right? Because we do not utilize Archon anymore. What we want here is a helmet with APOC, right? Critical hits grant arcane power, meteor damage, socket, and critical hit chance. As you can see, I have 3 out of 4 here. And APOC is not a stat that helmets normally roll, so you should be getting a special helmet. Swami fits the bill, as you can see. If I just had critical hit chance instead of the intelligence, it would have been perfect. The Magistrate, the Hydra helmet also fits this build, right? It can roll perfect. Not all items can roll perfect, right? Not every item is capable, but that's what you want. On the shoulder, what you want is cooldown reduction, cost reduction, area damage, and vitality or intelligence. Why? Because the shoulder is the only place that you can get resource cost reduction, except for the topaz in our helmet, right? And also it's also the only place where you can get cooldown reduction if your gear is optimal. So that's why you want to go for those. Mine is very far from optimal, sadly. As you can see, I don't have area damage, I don't have the cost reduction. On the Syndicate, we don't care about the fire skill cost reduction because we are dealing our damage with Arcane. I mean, it does help the cost of the explosive blast, but it still is a problem. I mean, it doesn't ever save you from being a problem. On the Scourge Necklace, we want fire damage, critical chance, crit damage, and socket. Again, as you can see, I have 3 out of 4. I don't have the fire damage. The critical chance is actually more important. That's why I went for it, because not only it adds a little bit more damage in my specific case, it also makes me utilize arcane power on critical. And also on this helmet, maybe it could be a better idea to get the 6% crit instead of the meteor damage if you are, in a similar situation to mine, because, if you get that critical chance, you will be getting 48 more arcane power every 100 attacks, right? That's the difference, which is pretty good if you are following my build. I mean, compared to one without the thing, right? So you will be losing out on damage a little bit because, 6% critical hit chance will not give you 15% damage up. However, it will give you more arcane power, so you will be able to cast more meteors. That's better. And if we are dealing arcane damage, why do we go for fire damage? It will be revealed in a moment, right? We go for fire damage, intelligence, vitality, crit chance, and the unique power in here should be good, right? It goes from 75% to 100%. And as I said, you can tell if you are in the wrong place by taking a look at your skirt stacks. So these should not be getting interrupted very frequently. And how do they get interrupted? When you take damage. So when your barrier gets broken and you start taking damage, this goes away, right? And that is, 10% damage up per stack, so 100%. So if you are losing this, you are losing out on 100% damage, which is kind of what makes Wizard strong. So that should not be happening. And obviously you use Black Hole to save yourself. On the gloves, what we want is critical hit chance, area damage, crit damage, and critical hit chance, crit damage, area damage, and cooldown reduction is an idea, or maybe attack speed. Let me see what the top guy does. Yeah, attack speed is an idea. So for the other build, it does not really matter, but in here it's okay. So I guess I have 2 out of 4 in here. As you know, intelligence is always somewhat acceptable, but yeah, we definitely wanted the crit damage there. Just couldn't get better. Tried a lot. So I have a garbage witching hour in here. The critical damage is awful. It is almost reverse perfect. 26, I believe, is the lowest. Yeah, so there is that. You want a better witching hour, right? And all of these keep adding up, right? I mean, not having the fire damage in here, not having the critical hit chance here. That's what. So I'm also missing 3% fire damage in here. That's what we want on the Blackthorn, but we just want the fire damage to be, 20%. We have a convention of elements. What we want is critical hit chance, critical damage, area damage, and socket. Again, I have 3 out of 4. And also the unique power should be as good as possible. And here comes the mystery solver. We have Stone of Jordan, which says every single elemental damage bonus that you have is equal to the highest that you actually have. So by utilizing the Cinder Coat, right, we have a lot of fire damage, and it gets all converted into arcane damage as well. So it translates to more damage for us, right? That's where And obviously what you want is increased damage against elites, critical damage, fire damage percentage, and socket. Keep in mind though, we have a lot of fire damage in this build, if you go perfectly about it, and its value is a little bit lower than normal, because normally you would have it on the amulet and on the bracers only, right? And it would go up to 40%. In here we go up to 100%, and the value is a little bit lower compared to the other stats. So it's still the best thing, right? So guys, let me give you an example. Let's say I have a perfect bracer and amulet, right? I'm playing a normal build and I have it there, right? I'm getting 40% damage up. If I lose one of them, I'm going to lose 20% of that. So I will be doing 20% damage up. And, unlike most people think, that does not lose you 20% damage. Why? Because your 100% was dealing 140%. Now you have lost 20% of that and you are down to 120%. So you are down to 120% from 140%, which means you lost about 14% damage and not 20%, right? And if we take the example in here, if you have perfect gear, you are going to have 100% damage up. Why? 20 from Cindercoat, 20 from legs, 20 from ring, 20 from braces, and 20 from amulet. And losing one of them is going to lose you how much? You had 100% damage up, so you were dealing 200, and you go down to 180. That means you have only lost 10% damage. But still, guys, 10% damage is a lot, and that's why it's still the best on the Stone of Jordan. So I have a lot of losses here, right? I have 2%, I have 1% loss here, I have a whole 20% loss here. Obviously, the intelligence gives me a little, so I'm not losing the whole 20%, but losing a lot of damage. Orb of Infinite Depth, mine actually has perfect stats. When I say perfect stats, I mean the rolls are right? Sadly, the area and the crit chance is reverse perfect, right? Inverse perfect, well, however you want to term it. They are the lowest of the possible. 8% is the absolute lowest and 10% is the absolute lowest. If this was better, this could have been an insane item, right? This is what the top players use. So you want the crit chance to be 10% and the area damage to be 20%. Obviously, a lot of damage loss there. And if you are curious about how much damage area adds, just divide the number that you see there by 5. That's how much damage it adds in percentage. So 10% area damage means 2% damage up for me, right? And if it was 20%, it was going to be 4% damage up. So yeah, a lot of damage lost there. And also, I'm losing from gloves and whatnot. On the boots, this is a classic. So mine is good. You just want the resistance to be vitality. And you want the unique power to be high. This is very important because, guys, the unique power in here has a high variance. If it's low, it goes all the way down to 675%. That means you are going to lose nearly 25% damage there, just from that. So this is only when it hits 3 or fewer enemies, but that's going to happen against elites at the end and against bosses kind of all the time. As for the weapon, we want the Grand Vizier power. So why am I not talking about Smoldering Embers? Because Smoldering Embers, or whatever it is called, Smoldering Core, sorry, that does not exist in Ethereals. So Ethereals cannot have this power on them. So you have to get the Grand Vizier, this one, right? You just should take an Oculus or Wizard Spike. Wizard Spike is better. And you re-roll it until you hit this. Of course, if you have a lot of primal ashes, you can upgrade yours into this one and try to hit the power. The passive is a little bit less important, but it's nice if you can hit anything nice. And the good thing is, because we are able to utilize like 5 of them, so you have almost a 50% chance to hit anything good. So this is what you want basically. What I let go is Audacity. So the Astral Presence is really important here. Astral Presence gives you more arcane power and more arcane power regeneration. So that's very important. If I had a garbage passive on my weapon, I would let Audacity go. Yeah. As for the skills, we use Meteor Star Pact, which we have gone over. Explosive Blast, Chain Reaction. So this is all of the cause of frustration. Sadly, the duration is only 6 seconds, and you have to keep this up. If you don't keep this up, what you have to do is As soon as you see a monster, do the black hole on them, teleport next to them, and do the explosive blast. And hopefully you will have a few stacks by the time they start attacking you, because without it, you are going to be, very squishy. As you can see, right? 54 million in town, 3.2 billion in fights, right? 60 times tougher, approximately. That's not only this, but that constitutes the main of it. Black hole spell steal to reduce their damage and increase our own. Teleport wormhole for mobility. Actually, for pushing greater rifts, teleport safe passage could be better, but we don't really have cooldown reduction, so it's not like the other builds where you have infinite access or nearly infinite access to teleport. So this will only work for a few seconds, right? Because we don't really have too high cooldown reduction. Let's check our cooldown reduction in here. How much is it? It's 30%. So my teleport cooldown will be like 8 seconds or so. And safe passage works for 5 seconds. Not bad, I guess. Could do that. So why do I go for this? So I would say for pushing, this is just wrong, right? You should go for safe passage. But normally, there will sometimes be, at times you will have to traverse cover a lot of distance. So this helps with that. But yeah, I would say for fit pushing, safe passage is better. Black hole spell steal, magic weapon conduit. So it would have been very nice if we could have actually gone for deflection. But you have seen how much of a problem the arcane power is. So that's why we go for magic weapon conduit. We go for storm armor, power of the storm, again to help us with our arcane power walls. And dominance and galvanizing ward are going to save us. So yeah, that's why you need to have good damage. Why? Because you engage an elite pack, you kill the trash around it, then you are fighting with the elite, and if your dominance stacks and the galvanizing ward can hold the elite off until you kill it, then you will be able to benefit from the 100% beautiful damage up from the skirt's necklace, right? If those shields are broken, I mean, if you are taking too long to kill the enemy, then yeah, your quality of life will start sinking, and you will be, you could die. Elemental exposure for some more damage. We have arcane here, we have fire here, we have lightning here. I don't think we have cold. Yeah, if we had it on the weapon, no, we don't have it on the weapon either. So we don't have the cold here, but still, 15% more damage, which is nice. So the reason that we do not use the black hole absolute zero is, sadly, it would help us. However, as you can see, the bonus, so not only we are not making them deal 10% less damage, also it makes us lose the damage up because it gives the bonus to only cold spells. So we have to stick with spell steal. So that's about it, guys. And if you have a primal ethereal weapon, and somewhat higher paragon, this is definitely good for clearing pit 150. And I will see you in another video. Bye bye.